Hey guys, today I want to show you a cool tournament game that I played. I had the white pieces and I played first e4, and my opponent played c5, knight f3, e6, d4, d takes c, and knight d4. So we're playing the open Sicilian, and my opponent plays knight f6, attacking e4. I play knight c3, and now he plays not bishop c6, knight c6 of course, and I play knight db5, threatening to go knight d6 check. And the main move here is pawn to d6, and now usually white plays bishop f4, attacking d6 again, pawn e5 and bishop g5. And now we are in a Sveshnikov Sicilian, with a lot of theory, but yeah, this position is completely fine for black, and that's why most people play this position rather than playing the position my opponent was going for. He played the move bishop c5, and in preparation for that game I checked his games and saw that he probably will play bishop c5 in this position. And here white got two promising options. So one is to go knight d6 check, but actually that's not so bad for black, because black actually can go king e7 and don't castle, which is not so obvious, I think. So, but king e7 even attacks d6, so the knight on d6 is hanging now. Oh, you have to play bishop f4, e5. Now the knight on d6 is still not defended, so you have to go knight f5. And black can now play king f8, and after bishop g5, d6. I mean, the white position looks really nice, and I think it's a good position. But actually, if you give if black gets some time and probably play king g6, king g7, rook e8 or something like this, bishop e6, then he gets a good version of Sveshnikov, yeah, because in Sveshnikov the bishop on c5 usually is on e7 and not outside the pawn chain. So I think it's actually not that clear that how you proceed as white and how you get an advantage. It's probably possible, but for the game I decided not to play knight d6 in this position. I decided to go for bishop f4. Which allows black to castle, but black has a lot of weak squares around the queen here. c7, d6, e7, all really weak squares. And I can play bishop c7, after which he has to go queen e7. If he goes queen e8, then I can play e5, and this knight on f6 is stuck. Don't really has good squares to go to, so that's why you have to play queen e7 here. And after queen e7, I played bishop d6. I was still in preparation. Bishop takes queen takes d6, and the idea of white is, as I already mentioned, to play around those dark squares, those weak dog squares, and probably hope to get an advantage. So queen d8, knight c7, and rook b8. And the main problem for black is the bishop on c8. It's kind of like in the French where you have a pawn on e6, but here it's maybe even worse because you have the pawn on d7 still. So the pawn on d7 can be attacked by, for example, long castles, and then the rook is also on d7, and the bishop even has less squares than in the French opening, in the French defense. So now I played bishop e2, guarding g4 and h5. And now my opponent probably should have played b5, which is here the theory move. But if you don't know theory, then here in this position, then b5 is probably hard to spot, because this pawn is attacked a lot and only defended once. But the computer says it's fine and you can play b5 here. But my opponent plays a6 with the idea of b5, which is pretty logical to me, because you don't want to lose b5, so you play a6 and then you play b5. And what I should have done here is I should have played a5 to stop b5. But I miscalculated a bit. In this position I thought that I can play e5, knight e8, takes, bishop f3, and then he can't play b5 because I take on c6. I will show you because I played it. e5, takes, bishop f5, bishop f3, and now you will see obviously he can play b5. My idea was I can take on c6, he takes, and I take the rook, and I'm completely winning. But after bishop takes c6, he's not forced to take this bishop back. He can play rook b8 to b6, and I can't move my bishop back because my queen is hanging on d6, and yeah, black is completely fine in this position. My opponent even played b5, and now I realize, yeah, I can't take on c6, or, I mean, I can, but doesn't really make sense. So what I opted for is I castled short, and now he played the logical move rook b6, guarding the knight on c6. Rook a d1, attacking d7 again, knight a5. Yeah, those knight jumps are not really dangerous. I mean, he can't go to b4, he can't go to d4. To d4, he can't play knight takes c5 because all those squares are guarded by my queen. He can go queen knight d7, which I actually expected, but this is also not that dangerous for white. But he went for knight a5, probably hoping to jump to c4. I saved my queen, obviously, and he played queen c7. Rook fe1. Now all my pieces are pretty nice, have pretty nice squares, and my knight can probably hop to e4 and then look forward to go to d6 or maybe to f6 even. And I feel pretty confident in at this moment. So he played rook d8, also a logical move guarding d7. I played rook d3, which is actually a bad move, but later rook d3 won me the game, and that's yeah. That's, for me, that's pretty... I think this happens often in chess, that you make a bad move, which later wins you the game. Because I think if bad moves are not punished, then bad moves become really, really good moves, because you can achieve something that usually you wouldn't have achieved. Because if I would have realized in the game that rook d3 is a bad move, then obviously I wouldn't play rook d3. But I missed the black idea, and so did my opponent. So rook d3 was actually a really, really good move. Could imagine without the move of my opponent, without the option of going d5 in this position, which is the refutation of rook d3, I think rook d3 would be the best move by far in this position. But after d5, I have to take, because yeah, I don't want my pieces to look at d5 and be really useless. So I have to take d5. Now he can take back d6 simply, because this rook on b6 looks silly, but yeah, can take on d6, and after queen f4, he can't take on d3 because his queen is hanging, but he can play something like bishop d7, knight d4, and takes, and I think black is completely fine here, yeah? He achieved everything that he wanted, and yeah, sooner or later, pieces will get traded off, and it's probably just a draw. So, yeah, rook d3 is, I think, a mistake, but my opponent played bishop b7, which I, in the game, thought also is the logical option, right? Try to trade this bishop against this bishop, and maybe free your pieces a little bit more. But now I can take on b7 and swing the rook over to the king side. And yeah, there's not actually too much that my opponent can do about that. Takes back on b7, and I go knight e4. Trying to go maybe knight d6, maybe knight f6, and later swing with my rook to g3. He played rook c6, which is actually logical, because he's attacking my pawn on c2. And if I do play something like c3, I'm actually in trouble, because rook c4, and my queen has to guard e5. So if I go queen here, he simply takes on e5. So I have to play something silly like queen a7 to attack b7. So if he takes e5, then I can take b7, but yeah, this looks really silly, obviously. But here I actually calculated well, and I saw the next sequence of moves. I played rook g3. My opponent went rook c4. And now I have to play knight f6 check. He can't take this knight because his pawn is pinned. Can't really go to f8 because then I take on h7, king d7, and queen e3, and his king is back in the center, and he even lost the pawn. So this position is probably completely winning for white. But his problem is that king h8 is actually also completely losing because of the silent retreat queen to e3, which I'm actually proud of, that I saw this move in this position. Because I don't think, I mean, in this position it's easy to spot, but I think from far ahead it's not so easy, at least for me. And because it's a retreating move. But the point is that he can't take my knight now because I have queen h6, threatening queen g7 mate, and after rook g8, I just mate him. And queen e3 even has a really strong threat of queen g5, going for queen takes g7 checkmate. And he can't really do much about that. He tried queen a5, attacking my rook, so if I go queen g5 now, I'm just losing because my rook hangs. But luckily for me, I can play c3. And now he played rook g8. And yeah, I could have taken the rook, but you can check if you find a better move than taking the rook. It's probably a bit easier for you because probably I will write something about this in the title of this video. But yeah, the right move here is queen to h6, a really pretty move, threatening queen takes h7 mate. And he can't really take any of my pieces, even though my knight and my queen is hanging. If he takes my knight, then I mate him the same way as before. And if he takes my queen, which he actually did in the game, which is really nice of him, because I think he could have resigned because he obviously saw what is coming, and he's a strong player, so usually they resign if they see that they're mated, but I think it's a pretty mate, so that's why he allowed it probably. And yeah, rook takes g8 is checkmate, and he can't really do much about it because otherwise queen h7 will come. He can sacrifice the rook, but even after h6 I still sacrifice my queen and win the game. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you want more videos like this. Write a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. I wish you the best in your games. See you!